Hello, my spooky friends. Tonight we have a special guest with me, Deborah Roque from Paradigma. She will be joining me to talk about the Congress Plaza Hotel, the spooky and creepy hotel in Chicago, Illinois. So sit back and enjoy this great episode. I'm really excited because today we have a guest, Deborah. Deborah, how you pronounce your last name?
Roque.
Roque, Deborah Roque. I can call her Deb, she said too. So we're good on that too. And this is podcast about everything mysterious, everything spooky and creepy in the Midwest. So Deb, I call my people, my friends, my spooky friends. So just to let you know. So Deb, tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about, why you like the paranormal.
Oh, well, okay, let me twofold. So first part, a little bit about myself. Well, my name is Deborah. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Nice.
I don't live there currently, but that's definitely where I spent the first big chunk of my life. I studied there. I actually moved to the Dominican Republic for 3 years, for some field work. I have my master's degree from the University of Miami. And I decided that after I graduated and I couldn't really find jobs and then COVID hit, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take my life on another turn, like because my life changed so much in the Dominican Republic. I feel like I came back as a whole different person. And I decided to pursue more, I guess, spiritual or, spooky sort of calling.
Right.
And just recently I started this here. And as far as my interest in the paranormal, I think I've always had an interest in it. Definitely since I was young. I had a really crazy experience when I was like 9 or 8 years old with my mom when we saw a UFO. And ever since then,
wow.
Ever since then, it's just really opened. It kind of just opened my mind. And I've had so many different experiences that I tried to deny for a while, but I think finally I've just learned to accept it. And now I'm here trying to, everything that I've learned and everything that I've come to understand about the paranormal, I'm just trying to share it with others.
Yeah. And also you have an interesting, podcast that you're working on or starting. Could you tell my audience a little bit about that?
Yeah. So just to clarify, it's not a podcast. Not yet. I do have a podcast, but it's not related. Yeah. It's not related to the paranormal.
Yes.
So this endeavor, I guess that you can call it's just like a little business endeavor that I'm trying out. It's called Paranormal Paradigma. And the whole point of it is to sort of look at the paranormal, from a different lens, from a more, I guess, conscious or awakened, maybe spiritual lens, where we talk about the fact that the paranormal is not just ghosts and spooky stories, which is great, and ghost hunting, which is definitely part of it, and it's what makes it fun. But also, to go a little bit deeper and try to understand the trigger that happens when we experience something paranormal, like what changes within us. Do you understand? And then from there, trying to explore that a little deeper and have people come to terms and make meaning of these experiences and integrate them in their life. Because oftentimes when we experience something paranormal, it can be, contradictory to our beliefs and what we think that we know about our life. And it can be life altering. And people tend to not always know how to navigate that very well. So my whole point and my hopes is getting people to understand what these specific paranormal events and experiences mean for them, and having them integrate them and, overcome the shock and the confusion and the stigma associated with the paranormal.
That is awesome, Deborah, because I think a lot of people, I think there's thousands of stories out there that remain untold. I mean, that's my opinion, just because it's just, I don't know, kind of people go, oh yeah, you're crazy. Like that UFO, like you saw a UFO.
Yeah.
Today there's less stigma attached to it, I think. But maybe back when you were a little kid, if you come running in and say, mommy, I see a UFO, your mom's probably going to be like, okay, sweetie, time for bed. You know what I mean? Or maybe she'll believe you. But the majority of people are like little kids saying something like, okay, all right. Same with ghost stories, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard for people to understand that when I was a little kid, I had this happen. And how do you deal with that, right? Because maybe it was scary.
Right.
Maybe it was the monster under the bed, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
monster in the closet. And that affected you when you got older, right? You sleep with
Yeah.
the light on. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. But I think that's awesome.
Thank
I think
you.
that's a good way. Now, yeah, so how do you go about that? Is that something like people write in or you just kind of interview people? How's that work?
I mean, so for now, again, I just sort of started this back in June. So it's
Yeah,
a little bit
sure.
slow to start. I think
Mm-hmm.
people are still feeling it out. But how it would really
Yeah.
go is just, getting people to share their stories because I mean, this is all, it's all a story, right? It's all our personal experiences are all stories.
Yes.
And so getting people to share their stories, having them sort of go back to, those sensations, what it is they felt, and sort of try to go break it down as to, where these
Mm-hmm.
feelings are coming up from and why do they feel that way? And then, how has it impacted their
Yeah.
life since that initial event?
Yeah.
And trying to
Absolutely.
understand it from, I guess, a more spiritual perspective. I would say holistic.
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm very respectful of people's individual beliefs. And, there's Christians, there's Muslims, there's Jewish people, there's, Hindu, I mean, just the whole gamut, right? And I really try to work with people's individual spiritual beliefs and just try to like
Yeah.
incorporate that paranormal experience within it and see how they can make it their own and how they can like again, integrate it and make meaning of it so that, it's not so scary or confusing.
That is great because like I said, that's extremely important for someone who has carried this for years. I'm very funny in the sense, and I always tell these stories, but I make no bones about it that I'm into the paranormal. So I'll have people come up to me and be like, "Hey, John, I got this great story for
Yeah.
you. Hey, John, I got this." And it's kind of funny because I listen to them and I'm like, "Hey, that's a really neat story." Or they got it off their chest, right? It
Right.
was something for them to be like,
Yes.
"Oh man,
Mhm.
I've been sitting on this." Oof.
Yes.
It's
I mean,
nice to tell someone who doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I realized how important that is for us like humans
Very.
to share these stories. And what I've realized, at least in the United States, in Western culture, we don't really have a space for that for people
No.
to share their what outside of the paranormal community. Like, let's say you have an
Yeah.
experience and it really freaks you out, right? Or maybe you've been having
Yeah.
an experience when you were like since you were a kid, and then you sort of grew up with this trauma, and you try to tell a therapist or a psychologist. They really don't know how to handle
Yeah.
these types of cases. And so I feel like
Yeah.
that's like a big, I guess, niche that we need to fill because
Yes.
we're not talking to people about these things because we're afraid that we're going to be called crazy or, prescribed like these psychotics or whatever, or maybe, labeled as
Right.
schizophrenic. And it's not, it doesn't have to be. There's so much parapsychology research out there talking about this. And, I just feel like if we can do it maybe from a holistic or spiritual side, we can start getting that conversation going. And maybe at some point, the medical field will like join.
Catch up. Yeah. Or catch up.
Yeah.
For that matter, right?
Mhm.
Catch up to it. So that being said, you told me UFO. You had a UFO. So do you have a spooky story that you can share that's not too personal? Because I don't want to get too personal, but is there something that you're like, oh, I had a spooky story. Here's one spooky story I can share with the audience.
Oh my God. I have so many spooky stories. I'm going to tell you, I've told my UFO ones. I'm going to try not to tell that one right now.
Okay.
People sick of it. But I'm going to tell one that I actually had, and I have no, I don't know what it was or what ended up happening, but I'm going to tell you how it happened. I moved into one of these like manufactured home communities years ago when my parents divorced. I was pretty young. I was possibly like 20 something. I don't know, my 20s. And I was living with my mom and my sister. Everything was cool. And our home was in front of a lake, but behind behind us was a lake. In front of us was a landfill. So it wasn't like the best place to live, but it's what my mom could afford at that time and what we can do. But anyway, that's like beyond the point. The point is manufactured home, not, the best quality home sort of stuff. So it was very easy to hear things all the time, especially outside and stuff. And my room was the first room. As soon as, like, when you walked into the door, my room was to the left. So I was the first room of the house, let's say. And my window looked toward the road. Well, couple nights I start waking up hearing these very deep, guttural, sort of heavy breathing noises. And that, like, I was like, what in hell what is outside? I had never heard of anything like that before. And, and I mean, I'm like a nature person. I used to like trek the Everglades all the time. I know what a lot of these animals that we have around here sounds like and stuff, right? So like, I was just like, okay, I don't know what that is. Yeah. And I remember one night hearing it, and it sounded like it was almost like dragging itself across my window, like from on the floor. And I was just like, I am terrified. Like, I froze. I was like, I'm terrified. I don't even want to know what that is. So I never looked. Yeah. Anyway, I just like, whatever. Few days passed, maybe months. I really don't know. The timeline's all blurred at this point, right? I just know that another day I woke up to something again making weird noises, but this time it threw a rock at my window, and I hear the rock break toward the window, and I was like, oh shit. Oh no. I was like, oh shit. Like, I was like, what is going on? And at that point, I'm like, I'm going to ignore it. Like, I'm going to pretend like it's not even there. But as soon as I'm like, I'm going to try to shake this off. Like, nothing happened. Nothing broke. You understand? As soon as I said that, I hear these like these taps. Like, it was, and I will never forget how it sounded, because it was very short and very quick. It was ba 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 ba. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So it just sounded like, what the hell? Yeah, it wasn't galloping, because galloping is more like da 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 da. This wasn't that. This was da 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 da. And I'm like, oh my God. So the next morning, I'm like, no, I gotta investigate. I don't know if I'm hearing things or this is like sleep hallucinations or whatever. So I grabbed my sister. I remember grabbing my sister, and we had just painted our home. So our house is freshly painted and our driveway is freshly painted. So I go outside and I see the rock on my window, like on the floor. It's still there, broken in pieces. And it was a relatively like nice shaped, like big sized rock. So I was like, okay, well, that's weird. It couldn't have just been kicked up. Do you understand? Like, something had to throw it. But the freakiest thing, and I will never know what it was it left a half moon shaped a mark on my fresh paint. And it just looked like a little new moon, like a little like crescent moon, sort of like, but I don't know. Wow. It was the weirdest thing. And we were all looking, my sister and I kind of looked at each other, and she was like, that is weird. What was that? And I was like, I don't know. And I told her everything. And ever since then, like, we never heard or saw anything again. But that was pretty terrifying. That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. You're braver than me to go outside. I imagine you did it in the light of day. Oh, yeah. The next morning. Heck no, I wasn't going out at night. No. Okay. I was like, Deborah, what are you doing? Going in the dark. Are you crazy? Nope. Come on. Have you seen a horror movie? I know the rules. I know how to be a final girl. Okay. Like, it's not happening. All right. Okay. So you're going to die last. For sure. That's good to know. If we're ever in a situation, I can count on Deborah. Awesome. So before we get to our topic, I have a couple questions for you. Yeah. First of all, have you ever stayed in a haunted hotel? I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I haven't purposely stayed in one. I'm sure some hotels that I stayed in the Dominican Republic were haunted, but I just wouldn't. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So the reason I asked that is because our topic today is the Congress Plaza Hotel in Chicago, Illinois. One of the most haunted hotels
not only in the United States, the Midwest, but in the world. Does that ring a bell? Congress Plaza Hotel.
The Plaza Hotel does, but I think there's a plaza in New York, so I might be confusing.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is different.
Okay.
This is totally different.
So then, no, I don't know.
So
let's talk.
A couple things. Okay, so great. This is going to be fun because then you'll be able to learn all this cool stuff because it's creepy as hell. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So one of the things, I've stayed in haunted hotels, but I've never had experience it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was on business trips, my team coworkers had experiences. And again, they knew I was in the paranormal, so and so. So this is two experiences that I don't know about you, but they'd freak me out. One guy came to me at breakfast and he said, John, did you have anything happen last night? It was super weird in your room. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm super disappointed, because I'm a paranormal guy, right? And he goes, well, I did. He said, a woman's voice said his name right in his ear. So, like if you have like your little girl, right? And she goes, mommy, like right in your ear, and you wake up and you see your little girl standing there. But imagine she's not standing there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so his name was Daniel.
Okay.
And so he heard this woman's voice go, Daniel,
no.
Daniel. And he thought he was late for a meeting. He thought one of his coworkers, and he looks around. This is like 4 a.m. And he looks around. His room is completely dark. He just freaks out.
I mean,
so would I, right? Wouldn't you?
Of course.
Right? How did they know my name?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's just so. Yeah, so he freaked out and he got another room. The next one was interesting because this was more interesting in the fact there was actual like intelligence stuff happening. So this one guy, by the way, this guy I talked to is a huge skeptic. He doesn't believe in ghosts at all. He thinks it's all a bunch of
my favorite people.
Anyway, his bathroom light, his bathroom light turned on. We kept on flipping on. Right. And then his door would slowly close. Okay. And this happened. We were there for 3 days. Each night around, he wasn't sure about what time, but about 3, 4 in the morning.
Okay.
So then after that, there was just pounding on his door, like boom, 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 like 4 a.m. Boom, 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 boom. And he's like, you know what? These drunk jerks coming back from the bar. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're doing that. So he goes, okay, I'm going to catch him. Because he wasn't worried about the light of the door. And I'm asking him a million questions. It's hilarious.
Right.
But he took a chair and he sat by the door the next night. And he goes, I'm going to catch these guys pounding on my door. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's coworkers, whatever, right? Kids in the motel, you know. So he's sitting there, just like clockwork, 3:30 in the morning. Boom, 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 boom. He flings open the door. Nobody's there.
No.
Nobody's in the hall. Nothing. And I said, wait a minute. All these things are happening at that time. That's like, I told him that's called a residual haunting with some intelligence. And he didn't believe me. Yeah. He just looked at me and just went, no, it's faulty wiring. And and the door is broken. And this guy stayed in his room, did not leave. Again, come home. He would come for breakfast and he'd be like, happened again, John. And I go, man, you can't. Then you need to tell the front desk. Right. So he told the front desk and they were like, this is the funny part. So the front desk goes, oh, that room's haunted.
Just like,
they told
by the way.
Said, oh, that's haunted. Yeah, just like matter of, by the way. And I said to him, can I stay in your room? And he's like, no, man, you can't stay in my room. And I'm like, come on, I'll switch your room.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I won't do that. But to this point, this hotel has had numerous suicides.
Yeah.
It's had sightings of shadows, ghosts. There is one floor, and I'll get into this, Deborah, the 12th floor, which the rooms are padlocked. You cannot rent those rooms. They have padlocks on the rooms because they're so haunted. You can't go in the room. You can't rent it out. They're not going to destroy it or anything. So pretty interesting, right? So let me get into it for you. So let's get into this because I think the history of this is just amazing. So I'm going to fire this up and look at my notes here. And like I said, I just wish something like that would happen to me, but it never does. I think I went the ghost too much. I don't know. Could be something else. So let's get spooky, shall we? So the Congress Plaza Hotel, like I said, is one of the most historical hotels in Chicago, Illinois. It is also one of the most haunted. So I do sources here. I like to put in here. So I'm going to bore you for a second. I'm sorry, Deborah, but I got to give sources.
I'm a researcher. You can bore me.
The Congress Plaza, my source. Yeah. So the Plaza, the Congress. Yeah. So the Congress Plaza Hotel history. That's a website. Chicago Tribune, Ghostly City Tours, and also just the Chicago, Illinois Congress Hotel website. So it actually talks a little bit about the history of the Chicago Hotel. So I'm going to bore you a little with history, but hey, this is why we do this. I think it's fascinating. So anyway, the Congress Plaza Hotel in Chicago, Illinois was built in 1893. So it is old. It has lots of cool features, including cobbled streets near the entrance, gas lights, which I think is kind of interesting, and horse-drawn carriages. So when you come in, on certain times they do this, not all the time, you can get a horse-drawn carriage around the block, and they have these old-time gas lights to kind of give it an old-timey feel, I guess, which is kind of neat. And it was originally called the Atrium Annex, which I'm like, that's a weird name for the hotel. But then in 1911, they called it the Congress Plaza Hotel, which that's a better name than Atrium Annex. The other cool features is the two buildings there's these two buildings that are linked together by a marble lined underground tunnel. And it's called Peacock Alley. So there's this underground tunnel and it's all marble. So that was kind of cool.
That's pretty.
One of the other things is this hotel's nicknamed the Home of Presidents. Numerous U.S. presidents have all stayed and campaigned in the hotel, including, and I don't know how good you are with history, but I love history, President William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Franklin Roosevelt. And also some actually modern presidents have stayed there, like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. So this is crazy. I didn't know this. I was like, this is a huge hotel. So it's 1 million square feet. So it has a lot of room. And it also has over 871 rooms. Okay. Wow. So it's a big hotel. And I have not been to it. Just to let you know, Chicago's about 3 hours away from me. And I have to check this out because when I was looking at it, oh man, it is crazy. And how would I say? It's like a 4 or 5 star hotel. So it's not like for taking I guess you could take the family, but I'm like, no. But I'm going to get right into the tragic story right now since I've kind of told you a little bit about the hotel. And I'm going to put some pictures and stuff on the website. When you see it, Deborah, you're going to go, man, that is gorgeous. I just love to stay there. And I'm sure you have hotels in the Dominican Republic as well as where you live that are just gorgeous old hotels. So let's get right to the hauntings. Okay. Unless you want to add anything you want to add as far as this hotel, that it's huge and presidents have stayed there. Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, just by the way that you're describing it, it almost sounds like pure luxury from what you're telling me.
Yeah. Just imagine a beautiful hotel from, well, this is early 1800s, but 1900s, where they just have the marble floors and the gold inlay, marble columns, and all the big leather couches and furniture, things like that, and I just think it's just amazing. So Here's the first haunting. Now you can, I'm going to get to more, but I want to get right into the spooky stuff for everybody. The first haunting is about, and this is really terrible, the tragic story of Adele Langer. So room 1252 of the Congress Plaza Hotel holds a pretty tragic story. Adele Langer, she was, and you're a mom, so this will probably upset you. So if any moms out there,
Yeah.
just know this is going to upset you. She was 43 years old. She was a Czech Jewish refugee who entered America with her two sons, Carl and Jan Misha. And so anyway, she had all these problems when she came about, is she going to be, taken out of the country and extradition and all this stuff. So she was really worried about all these things that were going on that kind of led to this. But here's the thing. This is crazy. The Langer family were owners of a 1.5 million, textile plant in Prague. So they came over here from Prague to make it, which I think they've already made it, in my opinion, because it's equivalent. It's equivalent today of $29.8 million they would be worth in today's money. Okay. So this is the early 1900s. Okay. So they had to escape because of World War II, and there's other persecution, obviously, of the Jews because they were partly Jewish and everything. And they escaped in the night and all this, terrible stuff they had to get here. But in August 1939, Adele and her two children checked into the Congress Plaza Hotel and stayed, like I said, on the 12th floor. However, her husband, who was supposed to arrive in America a couple of days later, had failed to turn up. Now, this is really starting to get sad. As days stretched into weeks, desperation turned to despair because she's waiting for her husband, right?
Right.
And she's really excited to have the family together, and he's not showing up. So, distraught by the disappearance of her husband, because back in that day, you don't call him on the cell phone and text him.
Right.
Or email. Her ability. Yeah, there you go. Instagram. She couldn't find work. She's, thrown into this mess because she's by herself without her husband. She's persecuted. She's worried about being, thrown out of the country and all this stuff. Okay. And this is where it gets serious. She threw her two sons out the window, Jan and Carl, just threw them out the window before leaping to her own death. So I don't know how you react to that. I know that's a heavy thing. Yeah, she just threw him out the window. Just see ya. Because she was just so distraught. There's an article that I'll put on the website that you'll be able to read. This has actually happened. So it's not like one of those things, maybe that happened. No, this is an actual article from a real newspaper clipping. And I'm going to read this. This is what they said. Mrs. Langer, so much has changed in the way we report things nowadays. Mrs. Langer hurled her two small sons to death late Thursday night from they say, 13th floor. It's kind of a weird thing, the way they number things in the Congress Hotel. A few seconds later, she followed them to her death leap. The three bodies struck the sidewalk in Michigan Avenue, south of Congress Street. Her suicide, the jury found, was committed while she was temporarily insane. So, anything to add to that?
I mean, you mentioned
that was the actual newspaper clipping. What they said.
You mentioned something that I had taken notice when you first started talking about the 12th floor, and you said the 12th floor was the most haunted of the whole thing. And I was going to ask you, does it have a 13th floor? Or is the 12th floor the 13th floor? And you just said that they said it was the 13th floor. So now I'm just like, like what's going on there? So that's really interesting. I also like that newspaper clipping. Was really straight to the point, wasn't it? Like, I mean, I'm just like, oh yeah.
Hurled her two sons.
Yeah, like
she just hurled her sons.
Yeah.
What?
I mean.
All right. Well, okay. But Yeah.
Can you imagine what state you must be in to like to even just consider that? Like, I don't know. Like, she must have been really like done. So
Yeah.
that's crap. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So there's another thing where, and it gets worse. Well, I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's like, my God. Interviewing Carl Longer, he's the father. He was they say that this is from the newspaper clipping too, which is weird the way they write it back in the early 1900s, I guess. Longer, a short, frail little man, spoke through an interpreter. His eyes were bloodshot and visible tremors shot through his frame. We left our homeland for the sake of our children, he said. We hope to find opportunities to give them a better life. Ugh.
I know.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's
right? You know, here he is, and you're told your wife and children are gone, and your better life, well, it's bad, and it's over. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Probably not.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, I can't.
Yeah, you just can't put anything on it. So this is some of the things where they also put some things in here regarding this suicide. And I'm like a little bit confused, but I'm like, okay, I guess it's the way that I kind of get it. This is according to the Chicago Tribune. And I'm going to report things. So this is what the Chicago Tribune said when they started to investigate and they found out a little bit more. Is according to the Chicago Tribune, Adele had been depressed since leaving Czechoslovakia and frequently talked of committing suicide, taking the babies with her. Okay. Number one warning sign. Maybe you should have sent her with your two kids ahead of you. Okay. The two boys had been sent to boys' camp to learn English. Okay. But they did not like it and returned home shortly before their deaths. So they were going there to learn English and, like I said, better life. The family was sent a letter from the Canadian government granting it a permanent refuge just before she jumped to her death. So she never opened the letter. Oh my God. How sad is that? So she was granted refuge in Canada with her family, but she never read the letter. And then she jumped to her death.
That's so sad.
Yeah, anything?
I mean,
it's terrible.
Yeah.
So Carl Longer, yeah. How would you think you would react to that? I mean, that's, to me, I'm like, here's everything you wanted. And then, well, it's gone now. Now the father, Carl, he did threaten to commit suicide himself due to the tragedy. And he did not do that. They got him some help, whichever, I don't know what the help is back in the early 1900s, but like you said, what you're trying to do, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Trying to help people talk and whatever. No, they did not do that back in the day. So he lived for a little while longer. Not really sure when he died, but he died shortly after, losing his entire family to this tragic event. So, and they had everything in front of them too. I mean, that makes it worse. So,
I know.
So now your question is, I'm guessing, are there ghosts there? Are the children there? And the answer is yes.
Of course they
are. So the 6-year-old Carl, he didn't even make it to the city morgue. I don't know why. This is so weird. And it's not known where Carl's body went. So they lost it. They wait a minute. They lost this kid's body. So psychics and ghost hunters believe that his remains are still in the hotel. I don't know if you know this, but if you die in a hotel, there's a kind of a morgue in the basement, just a temporary morgue. Why, you get the thing situated. that's, I guess, what happened to him. No one's found his body, his remains, to this day. They don't know where he is. So
that's even more sad.
Okay, that's not good.
Of course that kid is there. Jeez.
So, yeah. So on many occasions, staff and guests for the hotel have reported seeing the little boy running around in the 12th or 13th floor, however if you ever want to put it. In an incident reported by the security guy, John, not me, he saw a young boy he spotted with worn out clothes and standing at the far end of the hotel corridor. So, he would do with any security guard. John questioned the young boy. The boy simply grinned and faded away right before John's eyes. And to be honest with you, Deborah, that's where I scream like a little girl and run. How about you?
No, I mean, first of all, I would never be a hotel security just for that reason. Like, I would just not. That's not. So I can only imagine the terror because the kid smiles. Like, add insult to injury. You understand? Like, it's already bad enough that I'm a ghost. I'm going to smile at you, make it creepier.
So, apart from the manifestation, guests staying in the 12th floor or 13th floor, however you want to say it again, report their TVs, oh my gosh, turning on and off at random and their personal belongings being moved while they're away. So that happens all the time. I read a bunch of comments, and they say like, you, I don't know, if you get ready in the morning, you have your stuff out, they come back, in the afternoon and all their stuff is like the hairbrush is on the dresser and their hairspray or whatever is like on the bed. And it happens all the time. And the TVs, I don't know with ghosts and TVs, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Keep turning on and off. So it's like you turn it on, it goes off. Turn it on, it goes off. So to me, that's kind of annoying. I don't know about you, Deborah, but I would be like, will you stop it?
I mean, think about it. Like, this is the way I think about it. It's a kid. It's most likely a child spirit, right? So what else is the kid going to do other than drive you crazy and be mischievous? Like, you understand? Like, I'm just going to, I'm going to do some stuff because he has nothing better to do. So like, whatever.
Yeah, it's a kid, right?
Yeah.
So you're probably wondering, okay, obviously this is haunted. The room 1252 is still sealed off from the public. That's where the woman and her children died. In fact, the room is said to be so haunted that the doorknob was removed and the door gaps were glued shut, effectively trapping anything that may linger inside.
Do they think that's how it works? I mean,
I've never heard of that.
No, I mean,
right.
Yeah, like you're just gonna glue it shut and nothing's gonna go through. Like they can't like move through planes or like objects. Yeah. I'm just like, that's right there.
Hilarious. Right. So throughout the 12th floor of the hotel, many rooms were unmarked and bolted shut. So if you go in this, I don't know, maybe you want to go to Chicago and see this, please let me know if you do, because I'd love to hear your experience. I might go to it too. So, but there are damage on several of the door frames. There's also evidence of vandalism, which I think is kind of weird. Possibly thrill seekers looking for paranormal activity. Throughout the hotel, several other rooms also can be found locked up with padlocks.
How interesting.
Like, I don't know. Do you find that weird? I find that weird.
I do.
Or interesting.
I do, because typically hotels, they, from what I've read and experienced, like hotels just, they rent out their rooms. It's just a business. You understand? It's not anything. But for them to be padlocked is almost like, oh, this is real. Sorry, guys. We can't have you here because of some sort of liability or something. Like, it almost feels like that. You understand? And it's just kind of weird because it must be like, oh, this is like haunted. You understand? Yeah. That's the feeling I get. Like, this must be haunted.
Ugh. Oh, so now we're going to get into some deep stuff, some R-rated stuff. So if you have kiddies or anybody listening to this, you might want to put on your headphones or listen to it later. So I'll give you guys a second. So one of the most infamous suicides that happened there was of Spanish-American War Captain Louis Ostenheim. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If you can help me, I don't know a better way. He was the first United States artillery, and it happened on April 9th, 1900, when the hotel had only been in business for only 7 years. I can't believe this. It was the eve of his wedding. This was and he was staying at the hotel by himself, and he took a gun to his head, pulled the trigger, ended his life with no suicide note, no apparent reason for the suicide. As noted in the Chicago Tribune report, this was reproduced online where I was looking at by Dr. Neil Gale. He was the guy who did I'm trying to I can't think of the word right now. Where you look at the body after it's dead, and I'm drawing a blank here. But anyway, he found 2 wedding rings were found in the room with the gentleman's body, Ostheim's body. And to this day, nobody knows why he killed himself. And it's so weird that this happened, and it's happened so many times. There's too many to report. Like, people go there to commit suicide, and like they're drawn there, and that is super weird to me. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, like a place where people have been drawn to. Postmortem. I'm like, that's what I was looking for. So when they did like the postmortem, thank you. Like, my brain. Thank you for that, brain. So when they did the postmortem, there was nothing wrong with him. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have any diseases. He didn't, you know what I'm saying?
And he wasn't under the influence or anything? He didn't have like drugs or alcohol?
No, nothing. No, it was on the eve of his wedding, and he decided to kill himself, and nobody knows why. Had no idea why.
I've heard a couple of things. So that's interesting. That makes me think of there is a phenomenon, and I don't know why. When it comes to suicides, a lot of people tend to choose hotels, for whatever reason, to go and commit their suicide. And I think it has something to do with like just not being home and doing that in front of the parent, like the family or anything. So it's like a place that they feel like they disconnect, and then things will handle themselves. Like, it is what I assume. Obviously, I don't know, but this is like what I would assume. And the other thing is that when a hotel is haunted, or anything is haunted, right? Like, I always wonder if there's certain energies that sort of compel you or make you feel like different. You understand? Maybe you're just in a different sort of like, energy when you're there, and maybe things that you wouldn't have thought of before kind of overcome you, and you just feel like, oh, maybe, like it's a weird thing.
It is. And here's the thing, though. His shadow and his ghost are all over this hotel. In fact, he is known as the Shadow Man of the Congress Plaza Hotel. So people have seen him. One story, it said, where people were sleeping, and this shadow just came out of the closet, came right towards their bed, like just was menacingly just coming towards their bed. And, of course, they freaked out and got the heck out of there. But they just said it was felt evil. Just felt evil and felt dark. And they were like, see ya. And again, scream like a little girl. I'm out of there. I'm not. I'm man enough to admit that, Deborah.
That's actually very brave of you.
What other room? Oh, go ahead. So what other rooms, right? Yeah. So these are a little more funny, so these aren't as deep. But in room 474, a once resident judge, and not judge of a beauty pageant, actually a court judge, internally changes the channels on his cherished television set. So what's super funny is, like, you'll be sitting there and people said they'll report, they'll be in that room and they'll turn on the ball game or whatever. And then suddenly it goes to another channel and another one. And they didn't touch their remote and they're like, what is going on? And then when they go to complain, the manager or the customer service people, whoever's down there, just go, yep, that happens. Sorry. And they're like, we can do anything about it. And they're like, nope. So everybody gets a different room. So it's I thought that was kind of funny. So in room 759, another resident, he was caught in here. Well, he wasn't caught in there, I shouldn't say, but his son put him in his father or whoever it was in this room, to basically keep an eye on him, took him out of his house and stuff. So it's kind of sad. And he was an elderly gentleman, a longtime resident. And then one day his son said, all right, you got to go to the nursing home. So he was going to take him to the nursing home. And wanting to stay in the hotel, this old man mustered enough strength to keep his son and security guards from opening the door. So at room 759, supposedly what happens is, you put your key in or key card in and you open the door and the door was shut. And then what the heck, put it in, shut again. And then when you try to get open, the people have claimed it's like pushing a body, like someone's in front of the door.
So interesting.
And when the people go down and say, hey, your stupid door is broken, again, they're just told, well, it's haunted. There's an old guy that used to live there. So
I like how they're so nonchalant
like,
about it.
Okay, that's a little weird.
They're just so nonchalant. They're just like,
they know it's haunted.
Whatever.
Yeah. They're told on their first day it's haunted. Like, it's haunted. There's no way around it. Either you're gonna, and that's why a lot of people quit.
Oh.
They have trouble keeping people, which duh. Yeah. So room 441 is known as the most haunted room in the Congress Plaza Hotel. And the 12th floor is really, really haunted. And it's not very haunted. But this one, supposedly, it's super haunted. And again, some of it's kind of lost the history. So one of the things they say that there was a young woman who was a prostitute, and for whatever reason, the mafia went in there and they killed her, and her death was never solved. So when you're in this room, and this, I don't know about you, Deborah, what you'll see is wake up. Guests have woken up and seen this young woman staring out the window in 1920s clothes, or they've woken up and she's been standing at the foot of their bed, just staring at them. Or the worst thing, this is my worst thing, is when you're in the bathroom, when you take a shower and there's steam on the window, then you wipe off the mirror, I should say. She's right behind you, staring at you. So which one's scarier?
For me,
the foot of the bed, staring out the window, or
for me, it's the foot at the bed. Just because I'm sleeping, I wake up and all of a sudden you just don't expect for something to be there. And the same thing with the bathroom, but I feel like the bathroom, I'm alert. You understand? It's like when you're not alert and all of a sudden you wake up and you're just like, what the heck? How long has it been there? Has it been watching me? Like, creepy.
Yeah. And there's one other ghost on this floor, and he goes in different rooms, and his name is Peg Leg Johnny. And Peg Leg Johnny was a vagrant who lost his leg, I guess, in World War I, or who knows how he lost it.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of lost the history. But he likes to play around with you. He likes to come into your room and mess up your bed. And then he likes to, if you're a woman, unfortunately, he likes to pinch you, or pull your hair, or move your stuff. But it's all, what guests say, it's like an old man who's just trying to have a little fun because they're bored, like the kid turning on and off the TV. So don't worry about that one. I guess that's the nicest one there, which is kind of weird. But rooms 401, 407, and 428, again, people cold spots, hearing strange noises, all these different things that happen in there. Now, there also is a North Tower. So there's a North Tower and a South Tower. Like I said, they're combined by this beautiful marble tunnel, which is called Peacock Alley. But one of the things, this horrors, what they say, horrors of North Tower, I was reading about, I thought was interesting. This is funny because people who've been in here have said they've seen apparitions, shadow people, excuse me, just evil. So this is, yeah, and this peepers too. So this is funny. This is a funny story. So there was these two Marines in the early 1970s. All right, so they're Marines, right? So they've seen their stuff, and they got so scared one night, they just ran out in the hallway in their underwear and ran out the front door in their underwear at like 3:00 in the morning or something. That's how scared they were. Just see ya.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that's funny? I'm laughing at it. I think that's funny to see two big Marine guys just running out in their underwear, so scared. They're like, nope.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think?
I tend to think that the bigger, more like gruff you are, the more pansy you probably are when it comes to paranormal stuff. I mean, not, you know, I'm going to get so much hate for
All
that.
right.
But I mean, I'm just like, typically, not that it's always, but I've seen a lot of men like that. And I'm just like, guys, really?
Yeah, right. Exactly. The other thing too is in this North Tower and stuff, in some of the rooms, they don't mention the rooms, but they just say if you go in some of these rooms, and I don't know why they're not mentioning it, I thought it was kind of weird, but there are, again, suicides in there. There was a woman, again, this is a little R-rated, where a woman slit her wrist in the bathtub in the 1970s, and she is said to be glimpsed every night in this bathtub. Like you go into the bathtub and you see this woman, and they didn't say she's sitting in a pool of blood. I'm going to add that because it's scary. But basically you go in there and there's this woman committing suicide in this bathtub. And then when you go back out, she's gone. So I'm like, damn.
Kind of reminds me of 13
No, thank
Ghosts.
you.
Yeah.
The other thing. Yeah, right. There you go. So the other thing I thought was super funny is celebrities have stayed there. Not only like sports celebrities, but like they didn't say which celebrities. But one celebrity said, well, all these celebrities say every time they're staying there, they always hear strange, weird things happen to them. But one celebrity, which wouldn't give their name, said he saw what appeared to be a shadow figure moving back and forth in his closet. So I'm thinking that's the dude earlier who killed himself. He said he was so freaked out that he checked out of the hotel and then just went down the block and got another room. But he saw like a shadow just walking back and forth in the closet. Just like, nah, thank you. Also, Chicago's first serial killer, Henry H. Holmes, would linger in the lobby looking for young women, well, to kill. So he would like hang out in the lobby and, look for his next victim of this hotel. And they also said that his apparition, women especially, will see like a well-dressed man like appear in front of them in the lobby and stare at them and then disappear. So
that's interesting about H.H. Holmes. He would go to that hotel and then tell them to stay at his hotel or what, or like his spot is basically what they would say, like, come here, it's cheaper. Or something.
Yeah. So, right.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So he was just looking for his night. So he would go in there and just kind of check it out and then see some young, beautiful woman or whatever. And whatever woman he wanted, I guess, and just be like, hey, this is nice, but in my hotel, it has and he lied. Obviously.
That's so crazy.
So I just
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he used that as people would say, his hunting ground. And then the other thing, I told you about presidents and stuff. Supposedly in the ballroom, so they have these huge ballrooms, okay? And a lot of people claim they see a woman with a Victorian clothing going around, and they have even photographed this. I got to see if I can find this. It's home to, like I said, many other ghosts because the ballroom was very, obviously in the 1900s, early 1900s, it's very important. Like that's where you would gather for business. And also, people said they've seen President Theodore Roosevelt in the ballroom, just kind of walking around, and he doesn't say anything to anybody. So I thought that was like super interesting. Cool. So here's my question, Deborah.
That is interesting.
Before we wrap up here,
yes.
Just have a couple of things before we wrap up. Do you think it's haunted?
Oh, absolutely. For sure. Yeah.
And why do you think that? I do too. No, I do too. But why do you think that?
You've already talked about a few of these stories, right? And I mean, this is just like a tiny snippet of like, I can assume the incredible amount of testimonial that's existed from like the beginning to now. So it's over 100 years of stories. And I mean, I know that, in the paranormal testimony is like, not as important because as in like in a court, I guess, but for me, it's really important. It only goes to show you how much activity there really is there. And if you're telling me that all these people have stayed there and people of importance and there's just been so much history and death and all this negative stuff, of course it's going to be haunted. I mean, all that energy kind of lingers and people feel it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then I have to ask you, if you get an opportunity to stay there, are you going to stay there?
Absolutely. Like 100%.
Yeah. Love it. Love that because we can swap stories.
Yeah, and I went to Chicago.
We can swap stories. So I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I've been to Chicago and I don't remember. Like I didn't know. Had I even known about this, like I totally would have gone there and like probably tried to stay a night or something, or I don't know, at least check it out because I was completely oblivious to this.
Awesome. So do you have like a couple minutes because I have a true story from someone that I will read here. Do you have a couple minutes? If not, that's okay.
I do.
So this is called Mildly Scary Tales of Reddit. This is one of my
I love Reddit. Yes.
So I'm just going to read this to you. So this is from someone who stayed in the hotel. Okay. And I condensed it because she was talking about a bunch of stuff and I was like, okay, nobody cares. Just know she's a young woman. She's a mom like you, and she just needed a break. So she decided, for whatever reason, to stay in a whole Congress Plaza Hotel. So just as I started to drift asleep, I heard a crash from the bathroom. I went to see what it was. My fan, which I plugged in and sat in the middle of the countertop, was unplugged and in the shower. There is no way that could have fallen from the middle of the countertop into the shower. I had it for years and it never vibrated itself off the edge of a surface. So she's like, there's no way this could happen. Which, by the way, how did that happen? Because she said the shower's like 7 feet away from the sink. I'm like, okay. Then she said there was a point when she started to drift off to sleep again. She truly felt the presence of a dark entity. And she says, I'm not the one to talk or think like this. And, people think I'm nuts, which we talked earlier about, you're not nuts. It's okay to get it out. So she was like, okay, I just felt evil in the room. And then she tried in vain to go back to sleep and it didn't work. Now, this is a good one. At one point, I saw the cord to the lamp swaying back and forth on its own. The closet door kept opening even when I shut it firmly. And the worst of all, there were voices, so many voices. I heard voices on either side of the room, muffled and low enough that I couldn't hear the words, but definitely voices. It couldn't have been the other guests, but I guess it could be, but I don't usually hear a lot of people up at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So that, and then it just says at the end, she got the, out of there and she drove all the way home And this is actually from Wisconsin. So she had to drive like 3 hours home. So she left it like shortly after that. After hearing the voices, she said, enough, boom,
Done.
went down, got her car, drove back, done, I'm out. And, that to me, that would scare me too. Just seeing the sway of the cord and like, well, there's no wind and my fan isn't doing it. And then the closet keeps opening and then I hear these voices. So I don't know about you, but me, yes, I'm out of there. Are you out of there? Or are you going to stay?
I'd probably
What do you
stay.
think?
I'd stay though. I'd stay because again, like the way that I approach the paranormal now is a little differently than like before. So I'd probably be like, all right, whatever it is, you're not running me out of here. I pay good money. So we're gonna deal with this right now. So sorry, buddy.
I love you, Deborah. That's awesome. I love it, Deborah. That's awesome. You're braver than me. So one of the things I want to tell you too is we also did episodes. If you want to check out the Pfister Hotel, that is in Milwaukee.
Okay.
That's super haunted. So that's another episode we did. That's really fun. But before I go, one thing I want to know, please share, where you are, Instagram. So my spooky friends can find you.
That'd be great. Thank you. So you can find me on Instagram at Paranormal Paradigma or TikTok, the same name, Paranormal Paradigma, or you can always check out my website, www.paranormalparadigma.com.
Awesome. I will put this, also say, stay spooky. So stay spooky, Deborah.